Well, welcome to a quick review on a fairly available rye, or it was an available rye. I wanted to look at Alberta Premium Dark Horse. It's local, it's rye, and this will be my review. So as I said in the opener, I want to take a look at Alberta Premium Dark Horse. It's put out by Alberta Distillers, and we know that Alberta Distillers knows their rye. They are the rye behind actually quite a few big American ryes. I think the most famous would be Whistle Pig. But you find their rye kind of showing up in a variety of places, I think because they deal in volume, they age well, so they age to 10 or 12, and then I think they sell it by the tanker load to whoever's interested. I came to this product pretty late, and I want to talk about the product almost after the tasting. I will say it's rye, mostly, but I want to kind of get into, like, if you just walked into the store, you picked up Alberta Premium Dark Horse. It doesn't say rye on it, but someone said, "Oh, yeah, that's a great oil on the back." Yeah, it's a good rye. You should give it a try. It could be Alberta Dark Rye in the States. So US, it might not say Dark Horse. It might say Dark Rye. I can't remember now. But anyways, you might pick it up. You'd like the coloring in it, and you'd think, "Oh, this could be a really good pour." So let's see if, going in, it's a little stronger, 45%. It's put out by Alberta Distillery, so they got a good reputation. So let's see, what I can pick up in tasting this. It's very affordable, as I said. In Alberta, affordable means around $30. So I'll just give it a little pour. And I know it's getting later in the day, and it's getting close to winter time, so where I am, light disappears, but you can see it's got nice coloring in it. It's got a few legs forming on the glass, right? So I'll give it a little bit of a nose. Well, it's quite a pleasant nose. I can get some fruiting in there. Almost a spicy already coming in. It's interesting. A little bit of alcohol. Yeah, a little bit of stringency there, kind of up front. That makes sense. It's 45%, and I will give you a hint already. It has, as I said, it's a rye product, so it's mostly made up of a 12-year-old rye. It's been aged for 12 years in a toasted New American oak, I believe, and I think that part of the rye was column distilled. And then there's a 6-year-old rye in here that's been pot stilled, which often gives you more floral notes. I'm getting a few of those. So we've got the 12-year column still and the 6-year pot. So actually, I don't know if the 12's column still. They only mentioned that the rye that comes from the pot still is aged for 6 years. And then they said, and then mixed with a 12-year-old rye. So I'm not sure what that is. But interesting. With the dark color, nice stout bottle, good pricing. I'm like, oh, this could be something good. So I'm going to give it a little taste. There's lots going on here. I would even say I'm getting a bit of toasted caramel in there, which is pretty nice for a rye. So there's a little bit of caramel in there, a little bit of toasted sugars, fruits for sure. It's tough for me to pick fruits that other people pick as well. But, a little bit deeper, prune, raisin, not raisin, but cooked fruit more. A little bitter on the palate, so I'm surprised it's 6 and 12 year. For me, if you were aging this in oak, like in a minimum 6 up to 12, like in that range, a little bit of that bitterness that I'm kind of picking up has been taken out, so I'm surprised. that I'm picking up that bitter, but there's still lots going on. And now you can see the legs, really forming on the glass. I don't know if you can. I never know where to put the glass. I want you to stare at my face. But you can see some of the legs forming on the glass, right? And it's interesting, right? We got the nice color. We got the pretty complex body, really. There's quite a few, from the fruit to the floral. The finish isn't strong, except for maybe the alcohol burn. There is a little bit of bitterness, so it's not my favorite, but it's very interesting. And if all I knew is that it was rye, it was from Alberta Distilleries, this would be something that I'd recommend. It's still something worth having. It's still something affordable, and it's got character, and it's nice to drink. But here's what I was holding off letting you know before I give it a value or a rating. In addition to a 12-year-old rye, however they made that, and a 6-year-old rye from a pot still, there is, I hear, roughly about 8% American bourbon in here. Now, they don't say what bourbon, so we don't know what the mash bill is, what's going on in there. But they've actually added bourbon, not aged in ex-bourbon cask, not aged in, getting a little bit of that, but actually added, poured into some bourbon. So, okay, so it's actually rye and bourbon. And then, depending on what you read, they have added, as in poured in, between 0.5 and 1% sherry, which explains a lot of the color and a lot of the nosing and even the fruitiness, right? I mean, it just makes sense. And some people have said, well, you're going to get that amount of sherry from, if you were to go into an ex-sherry cask and it was wet, you're going to get about 0.5 to 1% sherry being added, and really they're just adding it in. So I don't know how I'm on this. I guess when I'm going to a whiskey, I'm really interested in the finishing. I am interested in the wood of the barrels. I love the story behind that. And I know Alberta Distilleries makes phenomenal rye. So when I hear it's a 12-year-old, a 6-year-old, and I was pretty excited to get a hold of this. And it's enjoyable, except for a little boozy and bittery at the end. But I struggle with getting behind the idea of really mixing beyond finishing and aging or double oaking or double wooding or whatever that stuff you want to call it is, and actually adding, an 80% bourbon poured in undisclosed, and percent of sherry just poured in. To me, it's just a little bit on the edge of, these guys have made a nice cocktail and I enjoy it. So I don't want to push you one way or another. That's your opinion to make. Would I try this? Yeah, I'd pick it up. I hear it. This Alberta Premium might be, not Alberta Premium, but this Dark Horse release might be going away. And for that reason alone, I would say, if you're in Alberta and you haven't tried it, I would give it a try. The flavors are good. They're not as blended as well as I would like, or aged as well as I'd like. To me, it's still a bit rough on the end. And so this, for taste, for flavor, for some complexity, for me, it's a 3-star. But I struggle a little bit with the idea that we're now going to be adding in other spirits, not just aging in casks that used to hold other spirits, but actually we're going to put bourbon in here, we're going to put sherry in here, we're going to put, we'll do an IPA expression, but we're going to put some IPA beer in there. And maybe it's okay. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe that's the way we should go. At least they've bumped up the APV to 45%. So at least it's a good, strong whiskey. They haven't watered it down with their addition of sherry or whatnot. But my mind just doesn't sit 100% with the idea of putting other spirits directly into the blend. Having said that, it's a decent rye. It might be going away, so I would consider picking it up. But it's not going to blow your mind. It's got lots going on. It's got nice complexity, and certainly at the price point, it's a nice drink. But I look forward to when Alberta Distilleries puts out their own, 12, 20-year expression of some kind of rye, cask strength or something. I think that would be really something to look forward to. So kind of mediocre for me on this one, but maybe you like it. I've heard some people really love it. I have a friend at work that actually came by and said, it's one of their favorites, and that they're the one who actually said, I think it's going away. So that made me think I better put out a review in case you're considering it. If you see it on your shelf, yeah, might be worth a purchase. So cheers. I'm John. I'm your whiskey neighbor, or your neighbor with whiskey, or however you want to say that. I'm not going to add anything else. Just a quick review of Alberta Dark Horse. But if you like it, please subscribe or send a comment down below and correct my mistakes. I will never get everything right. I just hope to provide a little bit of insight into what you're considering buying. And cheers. Thanks.